Ladies and gentlemen, welcome new players to Season 2 of Zenless Zone Zero. You guys are in for a pretty good time. Season 2 is bringing a lot of awesome changes into the game, like a revamped UI to the menu navigation, semi-open world exploration, and reworking old characters into complete monsters by changing up their old kits. So in today's video, I'm giving you guys the top 10 tips for new players in Zenless Zone Zero Season 2. Courtesy of myself and other Discord members who helped out in the community. However, can't lie to you, Zenless has made a lot of progress since I originally started the game last summer, and you guys genuinely have it so much easier now. The ability to skip entire story arcs just to get to a certain type of content, free S ranks, and a W engine to choose from, plus you guys get free gear every week. Man, I wish I got all that at the start. Even with all of that good stuff, Zenless Zone Zero has a world that's easy to get absorbed in, but equally as easy to get lost or even overwhelmed due to the differences in Zenless's approach compared to other mainstay gacha games like Genshin Impact. Unlike them, Zenless Zone Zero takes inspiration from IPs like Digimon World, Monster Hunter, Power Stone, and fighting games. Duh, I was gonna say that, why wouldn't I? These type of games aren't designed to hold your hand. They're designed to introduce you to the game's systems, then encourage you to explore from there. This goes hand in hand with how recently some late game players have been expressing issues with keeping up with in-game or not being aware of certain game mechanics. Now this is for a very specific reason that could be summed up into, well, honestly negligence, but that answer is a little bit more nuanced. Take whatever tips you want with a grain of salt, but these are listed to help you learn the game easily while still having the most fun. The first tip I've got for my new players is the easiest of the bunch. When you start the game, play up to the point of unlocking immersive storytelling. It doesn't take long, maybe a little under an hour, depending on your personal progression speed. What this does is unlock the rest of the game's functions immediately so that you can use energy without wasting the buildup. From this point, what I'd recommend is pumping your batteries into the resources for building your main team only. But the safe level is about 40. So anywhere between level 1 to 40 is generally going to be the safe range where you can build agents without using too many resources, which makes this the perfect opportunity to trial and error all the characters you're interested in on your account. In my own account, I couldn't decide if I wanted to fully invest into Grace early on or wait for Yixuan. So I gave her a small level boost, pulled around with her a little bit in some teams, and I didn't really like it. So now we're fully invested in Harumasa until Yixuan arrives. During this early game, you'll also receive these extra items called batteries, which give you 60 stamina every use. Save the fork out of these. Don't even bother using these until your account reaches the in-game section, because that way you'll get the maximum value out of them. Imagine having a stash of 60 batteries to use on finishing your final team, or completely building a new one for the in-game without spending a dime. Coming in as our second tip is what to do with this new S rank selector you'll be getting. But first, you need to get your first S rank from the guaranteed 40 pity banner at the start of the game. The reason for this is so you can quickly build out a solid team instead of wasting your selector on a potential dupe. Originally, I believe this was an easy suggestion. If you get X, then you pick Y from the selector. But with 6 standards on the banner, it gets a little bit more nuanced per account. For a more detailed version of this tip, I have an entire video already on my channel that you can check out near the top right. For now, I'll briefly explain some quick decisions. If you get Nekomata first, then you use your selector on whoever you want in order to start building out a second team early on. This is because Nekomata's best team for you at the moment will more than likely be Nekomata, Anby, and Nicole. If, however, you happen to get a Pulchra on your account, then she'll be better for your stunner slot instead. If you get Soldier 11, then you pull Coleta unless you have a Pulchra. Again, if you have Pulchra, then the same for Nekomata applies here. If it's Grace, then your best shot is Rina. The Mono Electric teams really appreciate having her as their support, and Grace is no exception. Getting Lycan first means you follow the same plan as Nekomata. Your real goal is to save and build up for an ice DPS like Ellen, Miyabi, or Hugo. After that is Coleta, who wants Soldier 11 or Grace to help complete a team. Then finally, there's Rena, which if it wasn't obvious, you go for Grace. This one is a big grain of salt though. It's a great combo, but Rena is a support who can be used with almost any early to mid game team. The main issue new players will run into with her is that she does take a bit more work to learn compared to the others. It's mostly a timing thing, which isn't hard by any means. It's just that you're gonna have to pay attention to more mechanics during a single fight. After that, we hit our third tip, team building. Ideally, the most basic way to understand this will be exactly what the game teaches you. 1 DPS, 1 stunner, 1 support. This will change over time and depending on your own playstyle preference, but right now, Billy, Anby, and Nicole is going to be the perfect example of what the game's mechanics will focus on teaching you about. Speaking of, Anby and Nicole should have a huge emphasis on being built. Nicole is literally the best free-to-play support in the game. Glues tons of teams together with her amazing CC flavored kit, and she's hot. Anby is kind of like the Ryu of Zenless, which reused from Street Fighter, and what that means is that she does everything a standard stunner wants adequately enough to get every job done, but she doesn't excel at anything, at least not anything specific compared to agents like Trigger or Lighter. If something needs to get stunned, having an Anby in your pocket never hurts. Contrary to on-field stunners are the off-field ones like Pulchra, who unironically is the other option you want to focus on building out of your free-to-play stunners. Depending on your DPS of choice, you can put more focus on Pulchra or Anby, and if you pull an S-rank stunner, then of course focus goes towards them instead. Don't forget to pick up as many free-to-play W engines as you can from the various events we have in the game, and remember to focus on one team first. Building 30 characters up to level 30 versus building 3 up to level 50 or even level 60 is way more beneficial to you and sets you up better for the long game. Tip number 4 is to use training mode. There are many agent tutorials present in the game, which are used to give you an introduction to how the character works, any possible team ideas, even the basic game mechanics like miasma are inside of these tutorials and training modes. From there, the game expects you to open the menu and read the character's kit, moves, combos, EX skills, core passive activations, so on and so forth. Then you take that and use their free training mode to experiment to your heart's content. Now, at the current time of this video's release, I have to be honest and admit that the training mode is not really up to my own personal standards. I want more from it, and it hasn't been actively updated since version 1.3 of the game. There are a crap ton of enemies that need to be added in here, but haven't been. What training mode is useful for, especially early game, is learning different enemy attack patterns and how they work, what moves they do, or how to tell which attacks are real versus fake. Even the newly revised Notorious Hunt can be used to practice against bosses once you unlock it. Early game should be used to learn as much as you want about Zenless at your own comfortable pace before the game starts to kick your butt. Our 5th tip and the last tip for early game is the most important of all. Literally just enjoy the game. You do not have to chase meta to have fun. That's just how some of us have fun. Allow yourself to get casually absorbed in the story. Find your favorite characters. Complain about how much you don't like the events. Whatever. It doesn't matter just as long as you find out what makes you enjoy the game. I love combos and optimizing unorthodox strategies to beat different bosses. I also love the story, and my favorite waifu is Yixuan. That's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally cool. It doesn't matter how many of us try to get you into the game if you can't find a single thing about it that you love. There is something for everyone, I promise. From that, we're leaving the early game tips and now going into mid game. A lot of these points focus on building out your agents and teams efficiently so you don't end up like me, fixing a bunch of mistakes after you reach the end game. There's a lot of tips I can give a player, but eventually they're going to become too specific. If you still need help, my Discord has been growing like crazy lately, and we've already helped a room full of new players get accustomed to bits and pieces of the game. There is a link in the description if you want, but we'll do our best to answer any questions in the comments as well. For now, let's jump into the second half of this new player guide and break into endgame. By this 6th point, your agents should be around level 40 or so. Pushing up to level 50 from that point can be gruesomely slow. Can be is the key word there. I know some players who straight up rushed their way through the levels, but unfortunately didn't have the characters properly built to deal with the sudden increase in difficulty. The best way that I've been able to do this for my own free-to-play account is to work through the characters per proxy level. What that means is take a character from level 30 to 40, increase their needed skills and core passives at the same time, but work one agent at a time. It's just easier that way. Ignore disk drives for now and just use whatever the game gives you for free. This is because you want to focus on guaranteed upgrades first, like the core skills, W engines, abilities, so on. Disk drives are randomized until you unlock gold disc, and even then, the item needed for that is rare and should not be used frivolously. Keep in mind, not every skill needs to be upgraded either, so there's even more resources you can save. Then that leads us directly into our next point, resource management. Within mid-game, you should be using your resources pretty wisely by casting your investment net wide at first, then you narrow it down the deeper you get into investment. It's better to broaden your initial roster for about 2 to 3 teams, then selectively decide who gets the full investment. Around this proxy level, you can use the Victorian housemate tickets that you get from clearing Hollow Zero once a week to farm disk drives for free. That's something that players still aren't aware of, but I'm telling you that now, so new players, you get the advantage today. Focus on your set bonuses and your main stats first from these free tickets. Then your substats can be rolled way after the fact. Ideally, you build into whatever your agent wants for the team, but sometimes it's just easier to follow along with what everybody else is doing so you learn quicker. Now here's a bonus tip for those that are not skipping around in the entire video. Remember those Victorian tickets I just talked about? Right, so if you go to Bardic Needle, you can actually craft random or specific main stat disc throughout the week to focus build your teams and characters even better. This gives you even more disk drives without needing to waste excess stamina on farming. It's also how players who know about this are able to build characters so fast, the more you know. From there, we jump directly into agent and team building. This is where a lot of players get confused or otherwise waste time that they shouldn't have. I'm telling you this as someone who has literally wasted their entire mid-game making mistakes for building teams. We've already talked about building up your agent's core skills and some decent resource management. Now we need to put more focus on who you're slapping together on a team. Let's use the latest agents getting ready to come out, Yixuan, Pulchra, and Kung Fu Panda. All 3 of these agents are on the same banner. Zenless has been pretty great at giving players a full team per banner since launch, so it's pretty easy for me to use this as an example. The most efficient form of team building would be putting all 3 of these agents on the same team. Pulchra provides off-field stuns, plus some small damage boost for Yixuan, and gives healing, defensive assist, sheer force boost, and aftershock-like attacks that activate conditions for both Yixuan and Pulchra. Then of course we have Yixuan, who takes advantage of both of them during her on-field time and her cooldown time. So from a new player's perspective, this current banner gives you the perfect Yixuan starter team and teaches you more about team synergy rather than brute force. Opposite of that, which is going to be the brute force option, is usually the gist of what we call hyper carry. You forego any real team strategy for the sake of absurd damage boost. This looks closer to a team of Yixuan, Trigger, and Astra, where both of these units do very universal, amazing things for anyone, but nothing specific for Yixuan. Neither is a bad option, but it's important to take the time to learn the benefits and values of both. Best in slot might not be best for you. Our 4th mid-game tip is simple but controversial. Pull for waifus, but be mindful of the meta.
But Mr. EO, what does that even mean? What are you doing? I don't understand.
It means that some of your best agents in your account will be A ranks, and some of the ones that work best for your team won't always be a favorite waifu. Zenless isn't a game that forces you to do a certain thing, but being aware of how other characters' passives work is extremely important, because the only way to completely negate that fact and needing that knowledge is by being an incredibly skilled player at the game. You should never underestimate what an A rank, standard banner agent, or even a W engine can do to improve your account. Some of the better free-to-play teams in the game utilize engines like the Brimstone and Weeping Gemini, or characters like Lighter and Harumasa, who may not be the most fan favorite, but ask anyone who has these units on their account just how much value they bring when used properly. And another thing for this is the importance of S-rank W engines. Typically, you'll treat these as a second priority, But one thing that I've constantly been thanked for is advising players to save their excess pull credits to buy a standard W engine for free. I think you guys can see why this might be a little bit controversial. Not all of them are as important, which I go over in this video about the standard S ranks here, but some of them can bring dramatic changes to a free-to-play account. Thankfully, the game has a good amount of craftable, event, and Asian exclusive A rank engines that get the job done more than well. Some of the signature engines are just too cracked not to try getting though. Finally, we end this video off with our very last point, and one I'm known for repeating often. Learn the fucking game. No, that doesn't mean spend 65 hours a day labbing fake Oki setups in training mode. What it means is that once a player reaches the end of mid-game, they should know as much about their teams and the enemies they fought in the game that adapting or learning strategies won't kill them. Never be so full of pride that you believe you're above any form of advice, because we can always learn something new and useful. With Zenless, I've made sure to constantly include myself in that. Enemies have their own details tucked away in these cards that give you hints, sometimes outright counterplay, to effectively beat them with little to no worries at all. Some characters have secret actions, combos, or tech that isn't told to you within their kit or tutorial because the devs want you to discover them on your own. That's what makes finding them so cool. But maybe that's different for this new generation of gamers. I don't really know. Getting better at Zenless never means sweating your ass off. Getting better at anything means the same no matter what it is. If you care enough, you'll work at improving however that may be. If you don't care, then the least I could offer is to not believe every piece of advice you read and hear, but instead take them with a grain of salt, do your own research, and then also do your own forms of in-game testing. Don't burn yourself out for brownie points, and definitely don't pop a blood vessel for being bad at this or that. It's literally just a game that all of us in the Zenless community enjoy, and we want to spread that joy to you, which now that I said that out loud instead of writing it, it sounds kind of weird. Maybe we use a different phrase. And with that, everything about this top 10 tips for new players is wrapped up. I've given you guys tips from enjoying the game your way, all the way up to mastering basic combos in a team before in-game. Season 2 is literally a couple of days away, and we're getting Xbox players. Most of the footage from this video was actually recorded from the Xbox edition that Hoyoverse was cool enough to invite me into. Did you guys notice how smooth the gameplay was? Now let me get out of here so I can hit the gym, then sleep before Season 2 gets here, and I have to wake up giga early to stream some Yixuan pulls and combo testing. If you still need help with Season 2, and maybe one of these videos on the screen can help you. Other than that, I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Like the video, comment, subscribe, or YouTube is going to take my house away. Know you later.